Hello, Rams family! Welcome to Rams Latest, your daily source for everything in and out of the Rams house. I'm your host, Brady Petrik. Before we get rolling, a quick shout out to Kalshi for sponsoring this video. Download the Kalshi app and use code FANARTSFOOTBALL to get $10 when you trade $10. And a quick reminder to like, comment, and subscribe. A little bit from you guys goes a long way. And now, let's get into it. Today, we've got another roundup of news for all the teams in the NFC West, as players are jumping in and out of lineups and taking the odds of division victory down with them. Starting off in, where else, San Francisco. Grass is green, water is wet, another 49ers player just got injured. You can really set a watch to these incidents, as it appears the Niners can't go more than a few days without a player getting hurt, sometimes the same player multiple times. Today's situation is just such a case, as veteran receiver Mike Evans has popped up on the injury report for the second time this offseason. Per reporting from the Niners joint practice with the Chargers yesterday, Evans left the field early with his left foot and ankle taped, wrapped in ice, and was unable to complete practice, although he was seen on the sideline observing the rest of the session. In the time since the injury, Niners head coach Kyle Shanahan has spoken on the situation, saying, quote, "They just said he has some tightness, so we were just being smart, taking him out. I don't think it's anything worse, so we'll see when we get in there, but nothing that I'm worried about right now." And you know what? I don't believe him. Shanahan has done everything in his power to discredit his word regarding team injuries. Need I remind everyone of the Christian McCaffrey saga in 2024? It's still amazing to me that he wasn't at least fined for that one. So until I see a full season's worth of accurate injury information coming out of Shanahan's mouth, I'm not going to take anything he says as truthful. It must be exhausting for Niners fans to not be able to trust a word that their coach says regarding the most important and sensitive updates from around the league. For that, and for only that, I feel bad for him. I'm also not a huge fan of this recent adoption of the term tightness in San Francisco. I haven't heard anybody else in the league using this term to describe any injuries in the preseason, which makes it sound all the more suspicious coming out of the Niners org. To me, it honestly sounds like a term that they landed on because they don't have to provide any specifics, documentation, or timelines when they use it. It also conveys very little in terms of severity. We all feel tightness every day, in our backs, in our necks, in our feet after wearing shoes for too long. Heck, I'm feeling some tightness right now in my legs, probably from walking up the stairs to my apartment. Do you see what I'm getting at? Tightness means nothing. And every time the Niners, and especially Shanahan, use it, I'm going to raise an eyebrow. Back to the specific issue at hand, or should I say at foot. Evans' new injury doesn't appear to be anything serious as of now, but for injuries like this, the real threat is re-aggravation throughout the season. Evans in particular has a recent history of lingering medical issues that have plagued him long after he came off the injury report. And I fear that this could turn into something similar, especially given his advancing age and the Niners' seemingly dogged commitment to mismanaging injuries in every way possible. To make matters worse, this wasn't even Evans' first injury of the preseason. He already missed 2 weeks of camp with a quad injury before returning to the field this past week. That's 2 soft tissue injuries for Evans, who turns 33 this week. And even beyond these 2 specific injuries getting re-aggravated, this doesn't bode well for his ability to stay healthy throughout the season. And again, the Niners can't be trusted to report injuries accurately or honestly anymore. So there's a very good chance that Evan plays during the season for this depleted receiving core while suffering through an undisclosed injury that affects his performance. I would bet dollars to donuts that next summer a story will come out about how Evans suffered an injury in October that affected his play, but he stayed on the field delivering subpar performance anyways. It might even be one of these injuries he's already gotten that he has to manage for the rest of the year. Again, with dishonest reporting from the Niners, we're all going to be left guessing. For any of you that play fantasy, I would stay away from Mike Evans this year. His pattern of preseason injury almost guarantees that his production is going to slide as the season goes on, whether he actually misses any time or not. And with the ascending play that we saw from rookie receiver Deshaun Stribling during his first preseason game, I expect the Niners to find other sources of production in the offense rather than leaning on the oldest member of their receiving core. It's too bad for Evans, who's a terrific player during the best of times, but he ended up in the one place that's going to put undue pressure on him to battle through his injuries. And we've seen in the past that those circumstances always lead to worse performance in his case. Enjoy what you see out of Mike Evans in September, because I have a feeling it isn't going to get any better than that. Moving on now to Arizona, where they're dealing with a much more serious injury to one of their rising young stars. It seems that, like all things with the Cardinals these days, it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back when it comes to rookie running back Jeremiah Love. The number 3 overall pick in this year's draft took the field for the first time on Thursday in a preseason matchup against the Raiders, and he put on a show in the Arizona backfield. Love ran with confidence, strength, and an assured stutter step that demonstrated a vision far beyond what we typically see from a rookie. He was able to get yardage by breaking through blockers up the middle just as easily as he was able to wheel outside and drag defenders with him for a first down. His performance was so electrifying that he's already drawing comparisons to Adrian Peterson for his run style and tackle breaking abilities. That's a name that rarely gets brought up when talking about any running backs, let alone a rookie starting in his first preseason game ever. And then, just as soon as those hopes were raised, they were dashed, as Love was pulled out of the game after suffering a high ankle sprain while getting brought down on his 3rd catch in as many targets. A high ankle sprain is a particularly devastating development for a young running back, as the injury takes a long time to heal properly and even longer for the player to recover their explosiveness. The Cardinals have announced in the days since that the sprain was not as severe as many had feared, and it will not require surgery of any kind to repair, meaning that the recovery timeline for Love is between 2 to 6 weeks, according to doctors who specialize in such injuries. As a result, the Cardinals said that Love will be sitting out for the rest of the preseason, with the hope that he'll be ready in time for the Week 1 matchup against the Chargers on September 13th. This is obviously a harsh blow to the Cardinals' offense, as Love was far and away the most exciting member of a unit that has performed far below expectation in recent years. While Trey McBride has become the premier tight end in the league, his abilities alone haven't been enough to elevate the squad to anything above mediocrity, and the less said about previous superstar first-round pick Marvin Harrison Jr., the better. The Cardinals really could have used a shot in the arm, and Love looked poised to be just that, but now he's nursing one of the most difficult injuries for a running back to make a full recovery from. Given this foregone position as the last team in the hyper-competitive NFC West, as well as their widely publicized campaign to try and score a quarterback in next year's draft with another high pick, I see no reason for the Cards to rush Love back onto the field. As good as he is, I don't think he's good enough to put the entire team on his back, and he'll be worth more to the team if he's able to heal back to his full self rather than delivering 80% of his top-level play for a couple extra games this season. We all know that the Cardinals are deep in the throes of a rebuild, and that they aren't expecting any true level of success until they're able to bring in a generational young quarterback in next year's draft. As much as everyone, including myself, wants to see Love on the field this season, I just don't think it makes sense to rush him back the way it would for the Cardinals if they were an actual contender. If they're smart, they'll let him recover for the maximum recommended amount of time to help ensure that when he does return, he looks like his same old self. It would be a real tragedy and a mortgage on his future performance to try to bring him back early just to drum up excitement at the start of the season. And besides, the longer he's off the field, the worse the Cardinals will be, and the higher their draft pick will be as a result. Obviously, nobody wants a player to be injured, but the Cardinals may have accidentally backed their way into an excuse for tanking during at least the first month of the season. The players are probably not too happy about this development, but I'm sure the front office is choosing to focus on the silver lining. And now, a quick break brought to you by our sponsors over at Kalshi. Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. The Rams offense had barely any player turnover from last season to now, and as a result, it's pretty reasonable to expect that they'll be able to pick up right where they left off last year. One player in particular who I expect to keep up his pace from last season is Davante Adams. He led the entire league in touchdown catches last year with 14, specializing in short yardage schemes that leverage his sticky hands and shifty footwork to create just enough separation to come away with the score. He may be another year older, but his technique hasn't gone anywhere, and he should be still as reliable as ever after another offseason building up chemistry with Matthew Stafford. Right now on Kalshi, Davante has 44% odds to get 10 or more receiving touchdowns this season, so a $100 trade would net you a $222 payout. That number even accounts for a downshift in production compared to last year. And with the expectation that Puka will miss at least one game due to suspension, as well as a clean bill of health for Davante coming out of the preseason, he should have even more opportunities than he did last season to find pay dirt in the end zone. I'm liking these odds. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHFOOTBALL to get $10 when you trade $10. Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on anything. Now we're heading up to Seattle to check in with what can be charitably described as a questionable personnel update. Well, it appears that the Seattle Seahawks fear losing the division more than they fear the United States justice system, as they've officially decided to roll the dice on the most controversial player of the offseason. That's right, after bringing him in for a workout last week, the Seahawks have beaten out a number of other teams in the stiff competition to bring former Detroit Lion and potential Florida State felon Terrion Arnold onto the team. Arnold was a first-round draft pick back in 2024 and was seeing an ascendancy in his cornerback play before being placed on injured reserve with a season-ending shoulder injury last year. From there, things only got weirder and worse for Arnold. During a stint living in Florida this past offseason, his home was burglarized for more than $100,000 in cash and valuables, and rather than going to the police, he allegedly took matters into his own hands and allegedly orchestrated a kidnapping with his supposed burglars over a video call app. Allegedly. Arnold was arrested for crimes stemming from the incident at the end of June, and was promptly released by the Lions as he awaited further clarity on his legal situation. They clearly had an issue rostering somebody with such a complicated personal history and such questionable character. But luckily for Seattle, they don't have that problem. It must be nice to have such a Teflon conscience. The Seahawks are looking for some additional depth at cornerback following the departure of Reek Woolen this offseason and an undisclosed injury that's keeping their third-round draft pick Julian Neal off the field. And they've decided that whatever he may or may not have done regarding guns and kidnapping, Arnold is the best man for the job. The Seahawks have been exploring a wide variety of options to shore up their cornerback room, including bringing in Cowboys cornerback Trevon Diggs to work out on Tuesday. Diggs was waived by the Cowboys in December and claimed by the Packers, who released him after 2 games. While he's far from the heights of performance he showcased during his ridiculous 2021 season, where he led the NFL with 11 interceptions, he could still deliver value as a competent rotational piece. But apparently his performance wasn't good enough to offset the fact that he isn't facing 4 counts each of kidnapping and armed robbery, so the Seahawks are sticking with Arnold instead. And as of this week, he's agreed to a 1-year minimum salary deal to join up with Seattle. Arnold's road back to the field will be a long and winding one. He'll be placed on the NFL Commissioner Exempt list when he signs the deal, meaning he'll be ineligible to play or practice while the league looks into his case, but he would still be able to attend meetings and would still be paid. The timeline on the legal proceedings, both in the courts and in league arbitration, are murky at best, and there's no telling if Arnold will even be able to play this season as he awaits trial. It's worth noting that his 4 counts of kidnapping and 4 counts of armed robbery carry a maximum sentence of life in prison, so depending on how the trial goes, he may never play a snap as a free man again. You see, it's these little legal details, like potentially spending the rest of your life in prison, that cause respectable organizations to wait and see what the courts decide before agreeing to pay a guy with an alleged history of money problems. The Seahawks must be incredibly confident that he didn't do it, or that he'll end up walking free. If that's the case, I think they should share whatever information they have with Arnold's lawyers. Because of his extenuating legal circumstances, I don't expect Arnold to be a going concern for the Seahawks for some time. But the team really showed their true colors by agreeing to bring him onto the team before his trial and sentencing. There's no other way to read it. The Seahawks don't care whether or not he committed the very serious crimes of which he's credibly accused. Whatever he may have done and whoever he may have hurt, it's all worth it to get that little bit of improvement in their corner play. Understandable? Maybe. Dignified? Absolutely not. My opinion of this whole Seattle regime just took a massive dive. With Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins leading a good guy charm offensive for the Raiders, it appears that the Seahawks are the new go-to team for crooks, criminals, and felons. Maybe they should just change their name to the Jailbirds. To wrap things up today, I say we wash that bad taste out of our mouths with a little bit of good news coming out of Rams Nation. As we all eagerly await the start of the season, fans and pundits alike are crunching every number possible to try and suss out what we can expect to see when the starters finally take the field in week 1. It's a process not unlike kids shaking their Christmas presents on December 23rd to get hints about what they're going to get on the big day. Whatever the shaking may reveal, it's all about building up the excitement. And with the most recent stats roundup from last season, Rams fans have more reason to be excited than most. This week, PFF released their rankings of all 32 defensive lines in the league, weighing factors like pressures, pass rush grades, and player pairings to determine which team will have the strongest unit when the first whistle blows in September. And in a not so shocking twist for anyone who's been watching the trade wire and the tape from last season, the Rams have topped the list with the number 1 ranked defensive line. PFF cites, big surprise, the addition of Myles Garrett as the main factor for the jump from the pits of the number 2 spot, where the Rams were last season, to the top slot. Adding the reigning defensive player of the year might have been enough to elevate even a mediocre squad into the top 5, but PFF specifically noted that by adding Garrett to a line that already included young standouts Kobe Turner and Byron Young, the Rams have a trio of defenders that combined for a whopping 227 pressures last season. That dominant threesome caused the Rams to vault over the Texans, who have a scary pair of edge rushers of their own with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. But 3 is the magic number, and the mere idea of what Young, Turner, and Garrett will be able to accomplish when working off each other was enough to place them above even the strongest proven units in the league. But if you're looking for something a little more battle-tested to hang your hat on for the upcoming season, look no further than the Rams' offensive line. The website Trench Track, which combines pass protection and run grade metrics to rank NFL offensive lines, has given the Rams a grade of A+ based on their statistics from last season, which ties them for first in the league. Factors like a league-low number of sacks allowed, the second-best run block win rate, and the retention of the majority of players from last season all contributed to this high grade. And if the eye test is more your thing, the Rams' first preseason game proved that the team can keep this gravy train rolling. Even while fielding backups and second stringers, the Rams' O-line looked strong and healthy against the Chiefs this past weekend. The pocket was a fortress, and neither Ty Simpson nor Stetson Bennett was sacked a single time during the game. The run blocking unit was able to create space no matter who was handling carries, as all 3 Rams running backs averaged at least 3.7 yards per carry or higher, with Jordan Waters logging a cool 7.4 yards per carry with the help of a big 26-yard rush towards the end of the game. And Ty Simpson had all the time he needed to work through his progressions, as his 21 completions on 25 attempts reflect ample time to throw and open receivers to throw too. Beyond just a collection of strong personnel, the Rams' offensive line is supported by elite coaching talent who are able to produce with whoever's on the field. That's the kind of consistency that allows a team to go the distance, as it means that injuries won't derail the line's ability to function together as a unit. I know that all of us Rams fans feel great about what we've seen from our offensive and defensive lines, both from last season and what little there's been of this season. But it's an extra confidence booster to know that what we're seeing on the field matches up with what we're seeing on paper. However you choose to dissect their performance, these Ram fronts are dominant. And with so many young studs in key roles, I think it's safe to say that this level of play is going to be an anchor for this team for the year and years ahead. That's all we've got today for Rams Latest. I'm Brady Petrik, and until next time, go Sheep.